She was still wearing her engagement ring when I caught them together, the 5-carat diamond catching the light as her hand rested on his bare chest. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The same ring I'd spent 6 months' salary on. The same chest I'd patted countless times after our weekend basketball games. My fiancée, my best friend, 7 days before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The real story isn't just about the betrayal. It's about what happened next. About the prenup they never bothered to read carefully. About how sometimes karma needs a little help from careful planning and foresight. My name is Ryan Mitchell, 34 years old, senior investment analyst at Horizon Capital in Portland, where I'd spent the last 9 years, building a reputation for meticulous research and risk assessment. The kind of job where details matter, where missing fine print can cost millions. The kind of job that shapes how you see the world. I was sitting at my desk on a Tuesday morning, reviewing merger projections, when Emma texted me about the final. Catering changes for our wedding. Emma Wilson. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 1. She was brilliant. Pediatric surgeon, graduated top of her class at Stanford Medical. Beautiful, ambitious, and from a family with old money and older connections. Don't forget Jason's coming over tonight to finalize the best man speech. Her second text read, Jason Taylor, my best friend since sophomore year of college. The guy who'd helped me move 6 times across 3 states. The one who talked me through asking Emma out in the first place. Got it, I replied, adding a thumbs up emoji. Simple, normal. The last normal exchange before everything imploded. The Portland skyline was turning golden as I packed up my laptop. Martin Weber, my department head, stopped by my office. Those risk assessments for the Henderson portfolio done yet? He asked, leaning against my doorframe. Just sent them. Flagged some concerns about their Southeast Asia holdings. Profit reports don't match their expansion rate. Martin nodded, a slight smile forming. This is why you're getting Collins' position when he retires next month. You see patterns others miss. I shrugged, just being thorough. That thoroughness is why the Rosenthal wedding account came to us. Word gets around. The Rosenthal account. 7 figures. One of the wealthiest families in the Pacific Northwest, trusting our firm with their estate planning based largely on my reputation. The promotion was all but guaranteed. Thanks, Martin. See you tomorrow. The drive home to our downtown condo took longer than usual. Construction on the Burnside Bridge had traffic backed up, giving me time to think about the wedding details. Still needing attention. The venue, Harborview Hotel, was Portland's most exclusive, booked 18 months in advance. 200 guests, Emma's father insisting on covering most costs despite my objections. A week in the Maldives for the honeymoon. Perfect on paper, just like everything else. I'd met Emma at a hospital fundraiser. My firm handled their endowment. She was newly appointed to the charity board, smart, composed, with an easy confidence that came from never having to prove herself. We dated for 3 years before I proposed on a Christmas trip to Switzerland. Jason had been there through everything, the initial dating jitters, meeting her imposing parents, the nerve-wracking proposal planning. My oldest friend, finance degree, but chose teaching high school economics instead. More meaningful, he'd said. I admired that. Our condo overlooked the Willamette River, floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist decor that was more Emma's taste than mine. But I'd adjusted. Compromise, right? That's what successful relationships required. When I unlocked the door that evening, I expected to find Emma and Jason at the dining table, wedding notes spread out, maybe takeout from that Thai place we all liked. Instead, silence. Unusual for 7:30 p.m. Emma? Jason? I called out, dropping my keys in the ceramic bowl she'd brought back from an Italy conference. No answer, but Emma's car keys were in the bowl, and a jacket I recognized as Jason's was draped over a bar stool at our kitchen island. They were here somewhere. I loosened my tie, heading toward the bedroom to change before joining them. Maybe they were on the balcony, enjoying the spring evening. That's when I heard it, a muffled laugh, Emma's laugh, coming from our bedroom. There's a moment before discovery when your brain tries to protect you, creates alternative explanations. Maybe they're surprising me with something for the wedding. Maybe they're wrapping a gift. Anything but the truth that's already forming like ice in your stomach. I opened the bedroom door without knocking. Why would I knock? It was my bedroom. Sometimes a single image can burn itself so deeply into your memory that you know it will never fade. Emma and Jason tangled in the sheets of the bed I'd slept in just that morning. Her engagement ring catching the fading sunlight through the windows as her hand rested on his bare chest. Both of them turning to look at me with expressions that shifted from shock to guilt in the space of a heartbeat. Time seemed to stop, then accelerate strangely. Details burned into my consciousness with perfect clarity. The champagne glasses on the nightstand, his watch, the one I'd helped him pick out for his 30th birthday, next to the glasses, Emma's wedding planning binder open on the floor, pages of carefully categorized decisions for a ceremony that suddenly meant nothing. "Ryan," Emma gasped, pulling the sheet up. "It's not—" "Don't!" I cut her off, my voice coming from somewhere distant. "Don't say it's not what it looks like." Jason was already scrambling for his clothes. "Man, I'm so sorry. I don't know what—" "How long?" I asked, surprised by how calm I sounded. Their glances at each other told me everything. This wasn't the first time. 3 months, Emma finally whispered. "It just happened and then—" "It just happened," I repeated flatly. "Multiple times over 3 months, it just happened." My mind was already running calculations. 3 months. That meant while we were finalizing wedding venues, while she was asking me about my vows, while he was helping me shop for her wedding gift. I turned and walked out of the bedroom, heard them both calling after me, the scramble of them getting dressed. I went straight to my home office, closed the door, and locked it. Sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. The numbness was a blessing. It let me think clearly when emotion would have clouded judgment. Emma was pounding on the office door now, crying, apologizing. Jason's voice in the background saying they needed to talk to explain. But I wasn't interested in explanations. I was looking for a specific file in my work folders, the prenuptial agreement that Emma had signed 6 months ago, the one her father's lawyers had reviewed and approved, the one with several specific clauses I had insisted on. Most people think prenups are only about protecting assets in divorce, but a good prenuptial agreement covers many contingencies, including infidelity before the marriage. Section 12, paragraph 3. In the event that either party engages in a physical, intimate relationship with another person after the signing of this agreement, but prior to the marriage ceremony, the transgressing party forfeits all claims to the financial terms outlined in Schedule A and becomes subject to the penalty terms in Schedule C. Schedule C detailed a significant cash payment to the wronged party, very significant, designed to be painful enough to ensure faithfulness, but not so outrageous that no one would sign it. Emma's father had objected to the clause initially, but eventually conceded when I pointed out it applied equally to both of us. What they hadn't paid enough attention to was the full scope of Schedule C. Most prenups with infidelity clauses only activate the financial penalties if the marriage actually takes place and is later dissolved due to cheating. Mine was different. Mine activated upon discovery of infidelity even before the wedding, a detail her family's lawyers had missed in their review. I printed the relevant pages as Emma continued pleading through the door. Then I opened my safe and removed a small USB drive. On it was another form of insurance. Financial records I'd been tracking since our engagement. Transfers Emma had made from our joint accounts to her personal accounts. Investments she'd made with my money, but in her name only. Small discrepancies. Most people would never notice. But as I said, details are my profession. The pounding on the door had stopped. I heard murmured conversation outside, then the front door of the condo opening and closing. Looking out the office window, I watched. Jason hurried to his car in the parking garage across the street. Emma remained in the condo, waiting. I took a deep breath, gathered the papers, and unlocked my office door. She was sitting on the living room couch, makeup streaked from crying, but composure partially restored. The surgeon's self-control reasserting itself. "Ryan, please let me explain," she started as I sat in the chair across from her. "Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. It was a terrible mistake, a moment of weakness that turned into... I don't know. But it means nothing. Nothing compared to what we have." I placed the prenup pages on the coffee table between us. "Section 12, paragraph 3, I said quietly. Her eyes dropped to the document, confusion briefly replacing the pleading expression. "What?" "The infidelity clause in our prenuptial agreement. The one that says, if either of us cheats before the wedding, there are financial penalties." She stared at me, then at the paper. "You can't be serious. We're getting married in a week. This is something we need to work through. Couples therapy. A postponement maybe, but..." "The wedding is off, Emma. You're upset, of course you are, but you're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking. More clearly than I have in months," I interrupted. "The wedding is off and I'm invoking the clause." She looked stunned. Then a flash of the steel that had attracted me to her in the first place surfaced. "My father's lawyers will fight this. That clause was meant for if we got married and then divorced because of cheating, not for this." I slid the document closer to her. "Read it again, carefully this time. It specifically says, after the signing of this agreement, but prior to the marriage ceremony. Your father's lawyers missed it. You signed it." The color drained from her face as she read. I could see the moment she realized I was right. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I already am." "It was one mistake." 3 months of mistakes, I corrected, with my best friend, planning our wedding while sleeping with him behind my back. She switched tactics. "What about everything we've built? Your promotion is coming. My practice is taking off. We're a power couple, Ryan. Everyone says so." And there it was. The truth beneath. The apologies. It had always been about status and appearances. The perfect match on paper, the wedding her friends would envy, the life her parents approved of. "Pack whatever you brought with you today," I said, standing up. "I'll have the rest of your things sent to your parents' house. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow about executing the terms of the agreement. Ryan, please..." "I have one question," I said, my voice finally betraying a hint of the pain beneath the calm. "Why not just break up with me? Why the elaborate deception, the wedding planning? Why carry it that far?" She looked down, silent for a long moment. "I didn't want to lose what we had, the life we were building, while building a separate life with Jason on the side. It wasn't like that." "What was it like then?" She had no answer. I walked to the door and opened it. "Goodbye, Emma." She gathered her purse and phone, moving like someone in a trance. At the door, she turned. "I did love you, Ryan, in my way." "Your way wasn't enough," I replied, and closed the door behind her. Alone in the condo, I called Martin Weber. "I need tomorrow off," I said when he answered. "Personal emergency." "Everything okay?" He sounded concerned. "No, but it will be. I'll explain later." Next, I called James Patterson, my lawyer. "The prenup clause we discussed," I said when he answered. "I need to invoke it, tomorrow if possible." A pause. "The one we hoped you'd never need?" That's the one. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'll set it up. 9 a.m. work for you? Perfect. I poured myself a scotch, the expensive kind Emma's father had given us as an engagement gift, and walked out onto the balcony. The Portland skyline was lit up now, reflections dancing on the river below. I'd have to cancel the venue, the caterers, contact the guests, tell my parents, all of it a nightmare. But as I stood there, I felt something unexpected beneath the pain and betrayal, relief, like I'd been carrying a weight I hadn't fully recognized until it was gone. My phone buzzed. Jason. 7 missed calls already, now a text. I know I'm the last person you want to talk to, but please let me explain. It wasn't Emma's fault. I pursued her. Blame me. Noble of him to try to take the blame. Too late for nobility. I blocked his number and finished my scotch. Tomorrow would be the first day of dismantling the life I thought I was building. But tonight, I allowed myself to feel the full force of the betrayal. The 2 people I had trusted most, conspiring behind my back, planning a future with me while sabotaging it in secret. There's a special kind of pain in that realization, but there's also clarity, the kind that only comes when illusions are stripped away and you see the truth for what it is. I thought about the prenup clause that would now cost Emma and her family significantly, the careful wording I'd insisted on, the protection I'd built in because, if I was being honest with myself, some part of me had never fully trusted the perfect picture we presented to the world. In my business, we have a saying, hope for the best, but document for the worst. I'd done exactly that, and now that documentation would be my shield and my sword. I slept in the guest bedroom that night, couldn't face our bed. Our home, suddenly, felt like a museum of a relationship that had been half illusion. The framed photos of us smiling in Tuscany, the matching coffee mugs with our initials, the wedding planning calendar on the refrigerator with next Saturday circled in red. Morning came with unexpected resolve. I showered, shaved, and dressed as if going to the most important meeting of my career. In a way, I was. The meeting where I would begin reclaiming my life. James Patterson's office was in a renovated industrial building in the Pearl District. Exposed brick walls, steel beams, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern, but substantial. Like James himself. "You look like hell," he said as his assistant showed me in. "Feel worse," I replied, accepting the coffee he offered. "Emma's father's lawyers called this morning. They're contesting the clause." I nodded. Expected that. "They're saying the intent of the clause was for post-marital infidelity discovered after the wedding." "The wording is clear," I said, "and I have the drafts showing we specifically adjusted that language during negotiations." They accepted it. James smiled slightly. "That's what I told them. Also mentioned we have evidence of the infidelity." I raised an eyebrow. "We do? Do we not?" He looked concerned. "I walked in on them, in my bed. Pretty solid evidence." He relaxed. "Good, witnesses can recant. Physical evidence is better, but this works." He shuffled some papers. "They're asking for a meeting this afternoon." That was fast. Wealthy people hate scandal more than they hate losing money. They want this contained. I considered this. What's our position? Full enforcement of Schedule C, no negotiation. I nodded. And my other concerns? The financial discrepancies? James frowned. That's trickier. We can bring it up, but without proof of fraudulent intent. It's a separate legal battle. I have the proof, I said, pulling out the USB drive. Every transaction, pattern recognition. It's what I do. His eyes widened slightly. You've been tracking her all along? Not tracking, just noticing and documenting. Things didn't add up, so I kept records. He took the drive. I'll have my team review this before the meeting. He paused. Ryan, can I offer some personal advice? Please. I've handled a lot of broken engagements and divorces. The ones who recover best aren't the ones who get the most money. They're the ones who find closure and move forward. I met his gaze. I want what I'm legally entitled to, and then I want to never see either of them again. Fair enough. He checked his watch. Meetings at 3. That gives us 4 hours to prepare. Let's get to work. The next few hours were a blur of legal strategy and document review. By the time we walked into the conference room, I felt armored in paperwork and precedent. Emma's father, Richard Wilson, was already there with 2 lawyers. No sign of Emma. Richard had always intimidated me slightly. Old money, connections everywhere, the kind of man who golfed with senators and had judges at his dinner parties. Today, he just looked like an angry father. "Mitchell," he said coldly as I sat down. "Richard." James took the lead. "Gentlemen, we're here to discuss the execution of Section 12, Paragraph 3 of the prenuptial agreement between Ryan Mitchell and Emma Wilson." One of Richard's lawyers, a gray-haired man with expensive cufflinks, leaned forward. "Our position is that this clause was clearly intended for post-marital infidelity. Applying it to a situation where the wedding is now cancelled is deeply irregular." James slid copies of earlier drafts across the table. These drafts clearly show the language was specifically amended to include pre-wedding infidelity. Your team approved these changes. The lawyers conferred quietly, while Richard stared at me. "What's your real angle here, Mitchell?" he finally asked. "Money? Revenge?" "Enforcement of a contract," I replied evenly. "The same standard your companies apply every day." The second lawyer spoke up. "Even if the clause is technically applicable, the penalties in Schedule C are excessive for the circumstances." James shook his head. "The circumstances? Ms. Wilson conducting a 3-month affair with Mr. Mitchell's best friend while actively planning their wedding seemed to fit precisely the scenario this clause was designed to address." Richard's expression darkened at the mention of the time frame. Perhaps Emma had downplayed the duration when confessing to her father. "3 months?" he asked sharply. I nodded. According to Emma, while finalizing our wedding plans, something shifted in Richard's expression. Perhaps a father's natural defense of his daughter wavering against this new information. "We're prepared to offer a settlement," the first lawyer said. "Half the penalty amount in exchange for a non-disclosure agreement. This would prevent any public discussion of the circumstances." James looked at me. This was my call. The money would be substantial even at half the original penalty, but this wasn't about money. It was about accountability. "No," I said. "Full enforcement, no negotiation." Richard leaned forward. "Be reasonable, Ryan. Consider Emma's career, your own reputation." "I have considered them for 4 years, while building a life with someone who apparently viewed fidelity as optional." The room fell silent. The lawyers exchanged glances. "There's also the matter of certain financial discrepancies we've identified," James added, sliding a folder across the table. "Mr. Mitchell has documented a pattern of questionable transactions from joint accounts." This was new information to Richard, judging by his expression. He took the folder and scanned its contents, his face hardening. "We need to confer privately," the grey-haired lawyer said. "Of course," James replied. "We'll give you the room." In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. "You okay?" James asked. "Just want it over with." "They'll counter. Standard procedure." I nodded. "Hold firm." 20 minutes later, we were called back in. Richard looked like he'd aged years in that short time. "Full penalty amount," the lawyer said without preamble, "with an NDA that allows Mr. Mitchell to disclose the cancelled engagement, but not the specific circumstances." "And the financial discrepancies?" James asked. "Full repayment of all questioned transactions immediately." James looked at me. I nodded. "We accept," he said. Papers were produced, signatures applied. In less than an hour, the legal dismantling of my relationship was complete. As we prepared to leave, Richard asked for a moment alone with me. James raised an eyebrow, but I nodded. When the door closed, Richard sat heavily in his chair. "I didn't raise her to be this person," he said quietly. I had no response to that. "The prenup was my idea," he continued, "to protect her and, yes, our family assets. I never imagined she'd be the one to trigger it." "Neither did I admitted. He looked up at me. "What will you do now? Move forward, build something new?" He nodded slowly. "She made a terrible mistake, lost a good man." For a moment I felt a twinge of sympathy for him, a father watching his daughter's perfect life crumble because of her own choices. "Good luck, Mitchell," he said, extending his hand. I shook it briefly. "Goodbye, Richard." Outside, Portland was continuing as if nothing had changed. Traffic flowing, people hurrying along sidewalks, the world moving forward as it always does. James clapped me on the shoulder. "You'll be okay. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually." "I know," I said, and was surprised to realize I believed it. "Thank you." "Just doing my job." He checked his watch. "I need to get back for another meeting. Call me if you need anything." I nodded and watched him walk away, then turned toward the waterfront. I needed to walk, to breathe, to begin processing what had happened and what was yet to come. My phone buzzed with a text, an unknown number, but I knew immediately it was Jason, likely using another phone since I'd blocked his. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please just talk to me. Let me explain." I deleted it without responding and kept walking. The prenup had protected my finances. The NDA would minimize public embarrassment, but nothing could undo the betrayal or instantly heal the wounds it had created. Yet as I walked along the Willamette River, watching the water flow past, I felt the first tentative sense of liberation. The relationship had been over long before I walked into that bedroom. I just hadn't known it. Now I did. Now I could rebuild. On my terms, with clear eyes about the people I allowed into my life. I sat on a bench overlooking the water and called Olivia Garza, my colleague and friend who had always been honest with me, even when it was uncomfortable. "Ryan," she answered, "aren't you busy with last-minute wedding stuff?" "Wedding's off," I said simply. A pause. "I'm so sorry, what happened?" "Long story, one I'm not ready to tell yet, but I could use a friend right now." "Evergreen Cafe in 20 minutes? Perfect." I put my phone away and stood up. The future I'd planned was gone, but another one was waiting to be built, one step at a time, starting now. The fallout was immediate and messy. Word spread through our social circles like wildfire despite the NDA. People chose sides, as they always do. Most of Emma's friends closed ranks around her, spreading whispers that I was controlling, that I'd driven her away with my perfectionism. Jason's friends, who were largely mutual, seemed confused and uncomfortable, caught between versions of truth they couldn't reconcile. Olivia Garza proved to be my anchor in those first turbulent weeks. We'd been colleagues at Horizon Capital for 5 years, and she'd always been straightforward with me. No sugarcoating, no platitudes, just honest perspective that I desperately needed. "You know what bothers me most?" I said to her one evening at Evergreen Cafe, our regular meeting. "Spot since the breakup. Not the betrayal itself, though that's bad enough. It's the elaborate performance, the wedding planning, the future talk, all while this was happening behind my back." Olivia stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "Some people can compartmentalize. To an extraordinary degree, they create separate realities and somehow live in both. That's not normal," I argued. "No," she agreed, "but it's more common than you'd think, especially among high achievers like Emma." I considered this. Emma had always been exceptional at maintaining composure under pressure. It was what made her a talented surgeon. That same ability had apparently allowed her to lead a double life without showing cracks. She texted me again yesterday, I admitted. Wants to meet to clear the air between us. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Are you going to? No. The prenup. Execution is complete. The financial settlement is done. There's nothing left to discuss. Maybe for you, she said, but Emma's the kind of person who needs to control the narrative. She wants your forgiveness, not because she's truly remorseful, but because it would ease her conscience. I looked at Olivia with newfound appreciation. She'd always been insightful, but her read on Emma was uncannily accurate. What about Jason? She asked. Any contact? I grimaced. He won't stop trying. Different numbers, emails, even had a mutual friend approach me. And, I'm not ready, maybe never will be. She nodded, respecting my boundary without pushing. That was Olivia, perceptive enough to ask the hard questions, wise enough to know when to back off. The weekend after our meeting at Evergreen, I finally tackled the condo. It was time to purge the remnants of my life with Emma. I hired a real estate agent. The condo had too many memories now, and began sorting through possessions. Some were easy decisions. Her abandoned clothes went to donation. The furniture we'd chosen together would stay with the condo sale. Wedding gifts that had arrived early were returned with brief, dignified notes explaining the circumstance without details. Other items carried more complicated emotions. The watch she'd given me for my birthday last year, expensive, perfectly suited to my taste. The photo albums chronicling our vacations, the handwritten notes we'd exchanged during her residency when our schedules rarely aligned. I was contemplating these items when my phone rang. Emma's father. Mitchell, he said when I answered, his voice gruff but not hostile. Need to speak with you. In person. I hesitated. I'm not sure that's necessary, Richard. Our business is concluded. Not about the settlement, something else important. Curiosity won out. When and where? My club. Tomorrow, noon. He named an exclusive social club in downtown Portland, where I'd met several of his business associates during my relationship with Emma. I'll be there, I agreed, then added, just you? Just me, he confirmed and hung up. The Portland Metropolitan Club occupied the top 3 floors of a historic building downtown. Old money, old power, the kind of place where deals were made. Over whiskey and handshakes long before contracts were drafted. I'd always felt slightly out of place there, despite my professional success. My background, middle class, public university, scholarship kid, set me apart from the legacy wealth that Emma and her family represented. Richard was waiting in a private dining room overlooking the city. He stood when I entered, offering a firm handshake before gesturing to the chair across from him. Appreciate you coming, he said, signaling a waiter who materialized instantly. Drink? Just water. He ordered scotch for himself, then studied me while we waited in silence. Richard Wilson had built his initial fortune in commercial real estate before diversifying into tech investments. He was used to being the most formidable person in any room. Today, he looked tired. I've learned more about the situation, he said after his drink arrived. Emma finally told her mother the full story. 3 months wasn't accurate, it was longer. I felt a fresh wave of betrayal, but kept my expression neutral. How long? Apparently, it started about 8 months ago, well before the final wedding arrangements. 8 months, nearly half of our engagement. While we were picking venues, planning our future, lying in bed discussing what we'd name our future children. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Richard swirled his scotch. Because you deserve to know, and because I'm trying to understand my daughter's choices. He took a sip. Did you suspect before you caught them? I considered the question. There had been signs looking back. Emma becoming protective of her phone, unexplained schedule changes, a subtle distance between us that I'd attributed to wedding stress and her demanding career. I sensed something was off, I admitted, but not that, he nodded. That prenup clause, very specific, almost like you were anticipating this exact scenario. Not anticipating, just protecting against worst-case scenarios. It's what I do professionally. Indeed. He studied me. You're good at your job, Mitchell. The Rosenthal account speaks to that. I was surprised he knew about my clients, though I shouldn't have been. Richard had connections everywhere. I didn't come here to discuss my business portfolio. No, he agreed, but it's relevant to what I'm about to propose. I raised an eyebrow, waiting. I'm launching a new investment fund, focused on medical technology startups, particularly in surgical innovation. Given your background in risk assessment and Emma's medical connections, you were originally going to be offered a position after the wedding. He leaned forward. I'm still offering it, to you alone. I stared at him, trying to process this unexpected turn. Why would you want to work with me after everything that's happened? Because you're very good at what you do. Because you handled a horrible situation with more integrity than many would have. And because, he hesitated, it would be a waste of talent to let personal matters interfere with good business. Does Emma know about this offer? No, and she won't. This would be through a separate holding company. No direct contact necessary. I sat back, considering. The opportunity was exceptional, the kind that could accelerate my career by years, but the complications were obvious. I appreciate the offer, I said carefully, but I'm not sure it's a good idea to remain connected to your family, even indirectly. Richard nodded as if he'd expected this response. The offer remains open. Think about it. He pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. It bore only a phone number, no name or company. Call this if you reconsider, direct line to me. I pocketed the card, not committing either way. One more thing, Richard said, signaling for another scotch. Emma's mother and I have been married for 38 years, not all of them happy ones. He paused as the waiter set down his fresh drink. What Emma did, she may have learned it from watching me. The confession hung in the air between us. I didn't know how to respond. Not excusing her actions, he continued, just providing context. Patterns repeat across generations, unless consciously broken. Why tell me this? Because understanding can be part of healing, he said simply. And because I respect you enough to offer the truth, however uncomfortable. We finished our meeting shortly after, exchanging stilted goodbyes. I walked out of the club, feeling oddly unsettled by Richard's revelations and offer. The man whose daughter I'd been prepared to marry, whose family I'd almost joined, wasn't quite the intimidating figure I'd built up in my mind. He was flawed, human, carrying his own regrets, and he still saw value in me, separate from his daughter. That night I dreamed of Emma for the first time since finding her with Jason. Not the betrayal scene that had replayed in my waking thoughts, but earlier. Memories, our trip to Kyoto, cherry blossoms swirling around us. Her face alight with joy when she'd been offered the pediatric surgery fellowship. The warmth of her hand in mine as we'd walked through Forest Park on Sunday mornings. I woke feeling hollowed out. Grief isn't linear. It comes in waves, receding, just enough to let you breathe before crashing over you again. Today was a crashing day. Work had become my refuge, the one place where the structure and demands left little room for painful rumination. I arrived early, determined to lose myself in the Henderson portfolio that needed restructuring before next week's presentation. Martin Weber caught me in the break room around 10, pouring my third cup of coffee. "Ryan," he said, leaning against the counter. "Got a minute?" I nodded, following him to his office. Martin closed the door, a signal that this wasn't casual conversation. "The Collins position," he began. "Board approved your promotion yesterday. Starts next month, as planned." "Thank you," I said, genuinely grateful that my personal upheaval hadn't derailed my professional trajectory. "There's more." Martin sat behind his desk. "The Rosenthal family has specifically requested you handle their daughter's trust restructuring, seven-figure account." I felt a flash of pride, followed quickly by wariness. "Any particular reason why now?" Martin studied me. "They mentioned hearing good things from Richard Wilson. So Richard was already putting in good words for me, even after I'd essentially declined his offer. Interesting. I appreciate the vote of confidence," I said carefully. "There's a catch." Martin's expression turned serious. "The initial meeting would be next Saturday in Seattle, the day your wedding was supposed to be." The timing felt like a cosmic joke, the universe offering professional advancement precisely when my personal life had imploded. "I'll take it," I said without hesitation. "Better than sitting home thinking about what might have been." Martin nodded approvingly. "That's why you're getting Collins' chair. You compartmentalize well." His choice of words made me flinch inwardly, remembering Olivia's assessment of Emma's ability to compartmentalize her deception. Was I more like Emma than I cared to admit? That evening, I met with the real estate agent at my condo. Karen Chen was efficient and direct, qualities I appreciated in my raw, emotional state. "Market's hot right now," she said, making notes as we walked through the space. "Views like this, downtown location, we should price aggressively." "I'm not looking to maximize profit," I told her. "Just want a clean break, quick sale." She assessed me with shrewd eyes. "Divorce? Cancelled engagement?" Karen nodded without prying further. "We'll need to depersonalize the space. Pack up photos, personal items, make it easier for buyers to envision themselves here instead of you." "Already started," I said, gesturing to the boxes stacked in the guest room. "Good. What about furniture? Staying or going?" "Staying with the condo. I'll be finding a new place, fresh start." She made another note. "Smart, furnished condos move faster." She glanced around again. "Can you be out within 2 weeks? I'd like to stage it properly before listing." The timeline was tight, but appealing. 2 weeks to extract myself from the physical space I'd shared with Emma. 2 weeks to pack up 5 years of memories and move forward. Yes, I decided. I'll be out by then. Karen smiled, the first warmth she'd shown. "I have another client, actually a colleague from my office, looking for a short-term rental while her house renovation finishes. Executive suite, fully furnished, available immediately. Might be perfect while you look for something permanent." The synchronicity felt right. "Send me the details." After Karen left, I continued packing, sorting my life into categories. Keep, donate, sell, trash. The process was oddly therapeutic, each decision a small step toward reclaiming control. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Jason again, using yet another phone to circumvent my blocks. "Please, just give me 10 minutes to explain. Coffee, public place, your terms. I'm begging you." I stared at the message, feeling the familiar surge of anger and betrayal. But beneath it, something else stirred. Curiosity. What possible explanation could justify months of deception? What version of events was he telling himself to sleep at night? Before I could reconsider, I texted back, "Evergreen Cafe, tomorrow, 7 a.m. The response came immediately. "Thank you, I'll be there." I tossed the phone aside, already questioning my decision. But perhaps this was necessary. One final conversation to achieve the closure James had mentioned. Or maybe it was just masochistic. Curiosity. Either way, I'd committed now. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed in the guest bed, mind cycling through imagined conversations with Jason. What would he say? What did I need to hear? Was there any explanation that could possibly matter? Morning came too quickly. I showered, dressed in casual weekend clothes, and headed to Evergreen early. The familiar coffee house was just opening, nearly empty on a Sunday morning. I chose a table in the corner with clear sight lines to both exits, a strategic position for an uncomfortable encounter. Jason arrived 5 minutes early, looking haggard. Dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, wearing the same University of Oregon sweatshirt he'd had since college. He spotted me immediately, but approached cautiously, as if expecting me to flee at any moment. "Ryan," he said, voice rough. "Thank you for—" "Sit," I interrupted, gesturing to the chair across from me. "You have 10 minutes." He sat, fidgeting, with a paper napkin. I don't know where to start. The truth would be novel. He flinched at my tone, but nodded. "I deserve that. All of it." He took a deep breath. "It started last summer, after your engagement party. Emma called me, upset about something. I don't even remember what now. Some fight you'd had about wedding plans. I met her for a drink, just to talk. One drink became several, and then—" He trailed off. "And then you slept with my fiancée," I finished flatly. "Yes." He met my eyes, then looked away. "We both knew it was wrong. Swore it would never happen again. But then, it did happen again for 8 months. His head snapped up. "She told you?" "Her father did, actually." Jason paled. 8 months is. He hesitated. It wasn't continuous. There were weeks when we didn't see each other. Times we tried to end it. But you didn't end it. Not even when the wedding was a month away, a week away. We were going to, after the bachelor party. That was the plan. Clean break, never tell you, just move forward. The calculated nature of their plan hit me like a physical blow. So, I was never going to know. You were going to stand beside me at the altar, knowing you'd been sleeping with my bride? He stared at his hands. "It sounds horrible when you say it like that." "Because it is horrible, Jason. There's no other way to say it." "I know." He looked up, eyes wet. "I've lost my best friend, my self-respect, probably my job once this gets around, but none of that compares to what I did to you." "Why?" I asked, the question that had haunted me for weeks. Why Emma? Why risk our friendship, her relationship, everything? Jason was silent for a long moment. "I've always been in your shadow, Ryan, since college. You're the successful one, the one with the perfect career trajectory, the beautiful fiancée, the respect of everyone who matters." His voice cracked. "Emma was forbidden fruit, the one thing that was yours that I could take." The raw honesty of his answer stunned me. Not love, not even lust primarily. Jealousy, competition, the desire to possess what someone else valued. "That might be the most honest thing you've ever said to me," I said quietly. "I'm trying." He wiped his eyes. "For whatever it's worth, which isn't much, I'm sorry. Sorrier than I've ever been about anything. I studied the man I'd considered my closest friend for over a decade. The person who'd helped me move apartments in college, who'd stayed up all night, helping me prepare for grad school interviews, who'd been there through every major milestone of my adult life. Now a stranger. "Your 10 minutes are up," I said, standing. "Ryan, please." "I heard what you needed to say. That's all I promised." He stood too, desperation in his eyes. "Can we ever move past this? Not now, not soon, but eventually." And I considered the question seriously, searching myself for the truth. "No," I said finally. "Some things can't be undone, Jason. Some betrayals cut too deep." He nodded, resignation replacing desperation. "I understand." As he turned to leave, I added, "I don't wish you ill. I'm just done." A small mercy, but the only one I could offer. Jason paused, nodded once more without turning back, and walked. Out of the cafe and out of my life. I remained seated, expecting to feel something dramatic, closure perhaps, or renewed anger. Instead, I felt oddly empty, as if the conversation had drained the last reserves of emotion I'd been holding around. The betrayal. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Karen Chen, sending details about the executive rental. Attached were photos of a sleek, modern apartment in the Pearl District. Neutral tones, minimalist design, the opposite of the warm, personalized. Space I'd created with Emma. Perfect. I replied immediately, accepting the rental and arranging to move in the following weekend. Then I called a moving company and scheduled them for Saturday, the day that should have been my wedding. The pieces were falling into place. New job position, new living space, new beginning. That afternoon I returned to the condo to continue packing. As I carefully wrapped a crystal vase, a gift from Emma's mother, the doorbell rang. Puzzled, I checked the security camera on my phone. Olivia stood in the hallway, holding what appeared to be takeout bags. I opened the door, surprised but pleased to see her on a Sunday. "Thought you might not be eating properly," she said by way of greeting, holding up the bags. "Brought Thai from that place on 23rd you like." The thoughtfulness of the gesture caught me off guard. "Thank you, I haven't eaten since breakfast." She followed me to the kitchen, taking in the partially packed living room. "Making progress, I see. Found a short-term rental, moving next weekend." Olivia nodded approvingly as she unpacked containers of food. "Quick turnaround, that's good." "I saw Jason this morning," I said, the words coming out before I'd fully decided to share this. Her hands stilled. "How did that go?" "About as well as you'd expect. He apologized, explained. None of it changed anything." "Did you expect it to?" "No," I admitted, but I needed to hear him say it, needed to look him in the eye one last time. "And now?" "Now I focus on moving forward." I gestured to the food, starting with dinner, apparently. She smiled, handing me a plate. "Small steps, Ryan. That's how rebuilding works." We ate at the kitchen counter, Olivia careful to keep the conversation light. Work gossip, a new restaurant she'd tried, the independent film festival coming to town, normal things that reminded me life continued beyond my personal crisis. As she was leaving, Olivia paused at the door. "The Henderson presentation is Tuesday. Want me to review your numbers before then?" The offer of professional support touched me. That would be helpful, actually. "I'm not exactly on top of my game right now. Email me the spreadsheets tonight. I'll look them over." "Thanks, Olivia, for everything." She studied me with those perceptive eyes. "You're going to be okay, Ryan. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually." The echo of James Patterson's words from weeks ago struck me. My lawyer said the same thing. "Smart lawyer," she replied with a small smile, then left. Standing alone in my half-packed condo, I realized something had shifted. The acute pain of betrayal was transforming into something else, not gone, but changing form, less all-consuming, more navigable. I picked up my phone and looked at the number Richard Wilson had given me. The opportunity he'd offered represented more than a career advancement. It was a choice about the kind of future I wanted to build. One still connected to Emma's family, or one completely severed from my past. I didn't call the number. Not yet. That decision could wait until I'd settled into my new place, my new position at work, my new life. One step at a time, as Olivia had said. Instead, I returned to packing, carefully wrapping each item from my past life before placing it in boxes, bound for an uncertain but entirely mine future. The day that should have been my wedding dawned with unexpected clarity. I woke early in the executive rental, my temporary home for the next 3 months, while I searched for something permanent. The space was impersonal but soothing in its neutrality. No memories here, no echoes of Emma's laughter or Jason's voice. Just clean lines, empty walls, and the promise of possibility. The movers were scheduled for 9. I'd given them detailed instructions about which items to bring to the new place and which to put in storage. Most of my furniture would sell with the condo. Karen Chen had been right about furnished units moving faster. A family had already toured twice, making appreciative noises about the turnkey opportunity. Their offer would likely come through by Monday. I made coffee in the sleek kitchen and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Portland come alive on a Saturday morning. Couples walking hand in hand along the river, joggers with determined expressions. A world continuing as if my personal apocalypse had never happened. My phone buzzed with a text from Martin Weber. Flight confirmed for Seattle. Car will pick you up at 11. The Rosenthal meeting, my professional salvation on what should have been my wedding day. I texted back a brief acknowledgement and returned to my coffee. At exactly 9, the doorbell rang. The moving team was efficient, respectful of my minimal instructions. They worked quickly, loading the few pieces I'd decided to keep: my grandfather's desk, my personal book collection, select kitchen items I'd purchased before Emma. By 10:30, they were gone, leaving behind an echoing space that no longer felt like mine. I did a final walkthrough, checking closets and drawers for anything overlooked. In the master bathroom, tucked behind the vanity, I found one of Emma's hair ties. Such a small, insignificant thing to trigger such a powerful response. I stood, frozen, the elastic band between my fingers, memories flooding back unbidden. Emma, fresh from the shower, wet hair piled high as she applied her minimal makeup. Emma in surgical scrubs, hair pulled back tightly before a long shift. Emma laughing as she tried to teach me to help with a complicated braid for a formal event. I dropped the hair tie into the trash and closed the bathroom door firmly behind me. Downstairs, a black car was already waiting. The driver took my overnight bag and opened the door with practiced courtesy. Seattle-Tacoma Airport, sir? Yes, thank you. As we pulled away, I didn't look back at the building that had been my home. Some chapters are best closed decisively. The flight to Seattle was brief, but gave me time to review the Rosenthal portfolio details once more. 7-figure trust fund, old timber money, now diversified across tech, pharmaceuticals, and sustainable energy. The daughter, Sophia Rosenthal, 28, was taking control of her portion as stipulated in the family trust agreement. My job was to help her structure the investments to balance growth with regular income for her non-profit work. A straightforward assignment under normal circumstances. Today, it was a lifeline to normalcy. A different car met me at SeaTac, this one with the Rosenthal Company logo discreetly displayed. The driver, an older man with a military bearing, greeted me by name without checking any identification. "Mr. Mitchell, welcome to Seattle. The family is expecting you at the main house." The main house turned out to be a sprawling waterfront estate on Mercer Island. Old wealth, tastefully displayed in manicured grounds and classic architecture. As we approached, I felt a momentary twinge of unease. This level of wealth was reminiscent of the Wilson family, Emma's world of privilege and connection that had always made me feel slightly off balance. But this was different. I was here professionally, on solid ground. The housekeeper showed me to a sun-filled study overlooking Lake Washington. "Ms. Rosenthal will join you shortly," she said, then quietly withdrew. I used the time alone to center myself, reviewing mental notes about the portfolio specifics. When the door opened a few minutes later, I rose automatically, extending my hand with a professional smile. "Mr. Mitchell," said a voice that stopped me cold. "Thank you for coming all this way." Emma stood in the doorway, poised and perfect, as always. "What are you doing here?" I managed, dropping my outstretched hand. She closed the door behind her. "I can explain." "There is no explanation that could possibly justify this ambush. It's not what you think." She stepped further into the room. Please, just listen. I've heard enough of your explanations, I said, gathering my portfolio materials. Whatever game you're playing, I'm not interested. The Rosenthals are real clients, she said quickly. So is Sophia. She'll be here shortly. This isn't a trick or a game. I paused. Then why are you here? Because Sophia is my friend from medical school, has been for years. She took a deep breath. When she mentioned hiring someone from Horizon Capital for her trust restructuring, I realized it might be you. I asked her for a favor, to meet with you first. The calculation of it all struck me. So you manipulated a client meeting for a personal agenda. Unprofessional as well as unethical. I had to see you. You've blocked my calls, returned my letters. I needed to apologize properly. Apology not accepted, I said coldly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an actual client to meet with. Unless that part was a lie too? No lie. Sophia will be here in 20 minutes. Emma moved to stand between me and the door. Please, Ryan, 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I checked my watch. 5 minutes, then I'm calling Martin to explain why I'm withdrawing from this account. She nodded quickly. Thank you. Don't thank me, talk. Emma gathered herself, the surgeon's composure sliding into place. What I did was inexcusable. I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way, with the person who would hurt you most. Old news. Is that all? No. She twisted her hands together, a nervous gesture I'd rarely seen from her. I've been in therapy since it happened, trying to understand why I would sabotage the best relationship I've ever had, why I would hurt someone I genuinely loved. And what profound insight has therapy provided? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice, that I was terrified of actually going through with the wedding. She met my eyes directly. Not because I didn't love you, but because I didn't believe I deserved you. Or that kind of happiness. I scoffed. That's convenient. It's true, she insisted. My father's affairs, my mother's willful blindness. It shaped how I view relationships. I never saw a healthy marriage growing up, only strategic partnerships maintained for appearance. So you sabotaged ours before it could fail naturally. How considerate. I sabotaged it because I was convinced it would fail eventually, and I couldn't bear the waiting. Her voice cracked slightly. Jason was available, willing, familiar enough to be comfortable, but not someone I could actually build a life with. The perfect self-destruct button, I observed. She nodded, eyes bright with unshed tears. I've lost everything that mattered. My relationship with you, my parents' respect, friends who've taken sides, Jason, who I never actually wanted beyond the temporary escape he represented. What exactly do you want from me, Emma? Forgiveness? Understanding? A second chance? I don't expect any of those things, she said quietly. I just needed you to know that what happened wasn't your fault. It was my damage, my self-sabotage. You deserved better. The admission hung in the air between us, surprising in its sincerity. The Emma I knew rarely acknowledged fault or vulnerability. 5 minutes are up, I said, checking my watch again. Just one more thing. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. This belongs to you. The engagement ring. The 5-carat diamond that had caught the light as her hand rested on Jason's chest that fateful day. Keep it, I said. It's part of the settlement. I don't want it. Never did, really. She placed the box on the desk between us. It was always too much, too perfect, like the life I convinced myself I couldn't have. A knock at the door spared me from responding. A young woman entered, willowy, with intelligent eyes and an uncertain smile. Am I interrupting? She asked, glancing. Between us. Emma straightened. Not at all. Sophia, this is Ryan Mitchell from Horizon Capital. Ryan, Sophia Rosenthal. I shifted into professional mode automatically, extending my hand. Ms. Rosenthal, a pleasure. Please, call me Sophia. She shook my hand firmly, then turned to, Emma, all good here? An entire conversation passed between the women in that single glance. All good, Emma confirmed. I was just leaving. She headed for the door, then paused. Thank you for the time, Ryan. I mean it. I gave a slight nod, not trusting myself to speak. She slipped out, closing the door silently behind her. Sophia watched me with unexpected compassion. I apologize. For the surprise, Emma said it was important. It's fine, I said, though we both knew it wasn't. Shall we discuss your portfolio? She gestured to the seating area by the windows. Please. The meeting proceeded with merciful professionalism. Sophia was knowledgeable about her assets and clear about her goals. We spent 2 productive hours outlining strategies and discussing risk tolerances. By the end, I had a solid framework for her trust restructuring, and she seemed genuinely pleased with the direction. My family has worked with several advisors over the years, she said as we concluded. You're the first who didn't talk down to me or assume I'm financially illiterate because I run a non-profit. That would be a poor assumption, I replied. Your questions demonstrated considerable financial acumen. She smiled. Stanford business before I switched to medicine. Numbers still make sense to me. As I gathered my materials, she added, Emma speaks very highly of you, has for years. I kept my expression neutral. We have history. So she mentioned. Sophia hesitated. I don't know the details and it's not my business, but she's been through a lot these past weeks. Whatever happened between you, I hope you know she's suffering too. Noted, I said, unwilling to engage further on the topic. Sophia respected the boundary. The car will take you back to the airport whenever you're ready. I look forward to working together, Mr. Mitchell. Ryan, please. Ryan? She smiled. Again. Thank you for coming, especially today of all days. So she knew what today should have been. The wedding date. Emma must have shared that detail at least. Professional obligations continue regardless of personal circumstances, I said. Indeed they do. Sophia walked me to the door, but that doesn't make them any easier to fulfill. Your professionalism today speaks volumes about your character. The drive back to the airport gave me time to process the unexpected encounter with Emma. Her explanation had been surprising, more self-aware than I'd anticipated, less defensive. Therapy seemed to be providing insights, though whether that would translate to meaningful change remained questionable. And the ring. Her returning it felt symbolic in ways I wasn't prepared to analyze. I sent Martin a brief update about the successful meeting, mentioning only that the client seemed satisfied and the account was secure. No need to complicate things with personal entanglements. By the time I landed back in Portland, evening was settling over the city. Rather than returning to the empty rental apartment, I found myself driving to Evergreen Cafe. The familiar space was busy with Saturday night customers, but I spotted Olivia at a corner table, reading on her tablet. She looked up as I approached, surprise giving way to a warm smile. I thought you were in Seattle today. Just got back, I said, sliding into the chair across from her. Mind if I join you? Not at all. She set her tablet aside. How was the meeting? I hesitated, then decided on honesty. Complicated. Emma was there. Olivia's eyes widened. What? How? I explained the connection to Sophia, the ambush meeting, Emma's apology and explanations. That's quite a coincidence, Olivia said when I finished. Is it, though? Emma has connections everywhere. She probably engineered the whole thing knowing I'd be assigned to the account. Olivia considered this. Possibly. Or maybe the universe has a twisted sense of humor. Either way, it was unexpected. How do you feel about what she said? About self-sabotage and therapy? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't know. It sounded genuine, which is rare for Emma. She's usually more calculated. People can surprise you, Olivia said, watching me carefully. Sometimes crisis forces growth. Maybe, but it doesn't change what happened. No, she agreed, it doesn't. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment before she asked, "How was the actual business meeting? With Sophia?" "Good, professional. She's sharp, knows what she wants. That's something at least." The server approached, and I ordered coffee. Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Just coffee? Have you eaten today?" I tried to remember. "Breakfast on the plane?" She shook her head disapprovingly and ordered sandwiches for both of us when the server returned. "You need actual food, Ryan. Basic self-care still applies during personal crises." Her concern touched me. "Yes, ma'am." "Don't ma'am me. I'm 2 years younger than you." "Yes, wise and benevolent friend who clearly knows better than I do." She laughed, the sound brightening the evening. "That's more like it." We ate and talked, carefully avoiding further discussion of Emma or the cancelled wedding. Instead, Olivia told me about her weekend hiking trip planned for the following month, solo backpacking in the Cascades. I shared my thoughts about looking for a more permanent living situation, maybe something outside the downtown core. "There's a great neighborhood in Northeast," she suggested. "Older homes, big yards, good restaurants within walking distance. My sister lived there for years before moving to Chicago." "Might be nice," I agreed. "Change of scenery." "Change can be good," she said softly. Something in her tone made me look at her more carefully. Olivia had always been attractive in an understated way. Intelligent eyes, genuine smile, a quiet confidence that didn't demand attention. Tonight, in the warm lighting of the cafe, I noticed details I'd overlooked. Before, the curve of her cheek, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when making an important point, the slight dimple that appeared with her true smile, not her professional one. "What?" she asked, catching me staring. "Nothing," I said, slightly embarrassed. "Just thank you for being here. For the past weeks, it's meant a lot." A faint blush colored her cheeks. "That's what friends do." "Not all friends," I said, thinking of Jason. "Good ones." She held my gaze for a moment, something unspoken passing between us before she glanced at her watch. "It's getting late. I should probably head home." "I'll walk you to your car," I offered, paying the bill despite her protests. Outside, the night air was cool but not uncomfortable. We walked in companionable silence to the small parking lot, behind the cafe where her practical sedan waited. "Will you be okay?" she asked as we reached her car. "Today couldn't have been easy." "I'll survive," I said. "One day at a time, right?" "Right." She hesitated, then surprised me by rising on tiptoes to kiss my cheek. "Call if you need anything." I watched her drive away, a strange lightness, replacing the emotional weight I'd carried throughout the day. Not happiness exactly, but something adjacent to it. Possibility, perhaps. Back at the rental apartment, I found the small velvet box in my pocket. Emma must have slipped it there during our conversation. I opened it, expecting to feel a fresh wave of pain at the sight of the ring. Instead, I felt oddly detached. The diamond caught the light, beautiful but cold. I'd spent months choosing it, wanting it to be perfect for Emma. Now it seemed like an artifact from someone else's life. I closed the box and placed it in the safe built into the closet wall. Another asset to be dealt with eventually, but not tonight. Tonight was for moving forward, one incremental step at a time. The following week brought a flurry of activity. The condo sold to the family who'd toured twice. Full asking price, cash offer, 30-day close. Karen Chen called with the news, sounding genuinely pleased. "Fastest sale I've handled this year," she said. "Right place, right time, right buyer." Martin announced my promotion officially, complete with a company-wide email highlighting my exceptional client relationships and analytical acumen. My new office, formerly Collins, had better views and came with an assistant. Megan was 50-something, efficient and refreshingly no-nonsense. Mr. Collins liked his coffee black and his calls screened, she informed me on my first day in the new position. "What are your preferences?" "Coffee with milk, calls judged on merit," I replied. "And please call me Ryan." She nodded approvingly. "You'll do better than Collins. He was a bit of a dinosaur." The Rosenthal account formalized, with Sophia signing all the necessary paperwork without modifications. A significant win for both me personally and the firm. Martin was ecstatic, talking about leveraging the relationship to attract similar high-net-worth clients. "Whatever you did in Seattle, keep doing it," he advised. If only he knew. I hadn't heard from Emma since our Seattle encounter, which was a relief. The prenup execution was complete, the financial settlements finalized. Legally and financially, our lives were disentangled. Only the emotional threads remained, and those were fraying naturally with time and distance. On Friday afternoon, I received an unexpected email from Richard Wilson. No subject line, just a short message. "Mitchell, still interested in discussing that opportunity. No pressure, no timeline. RW." I stared at the screen, considering. The investment fund focusing on medical technology startups was genuinely intriguing from a professional standpoint. Richard's connections in both the financial and medical worlds would make it a formidable venture. The opportunity to get in at the ground level was rare, but the complications were obvious. Would Emma be involved, even peripherally? Would working with her father create awkward situations, reopen wounds better left to heal? I saved the email without responding. Some decisions didn't need immediate answers. That evening, I found myself driving through the northeast neighborhood Olivia had mentioned. Older homes with character, tree-lined streets, a sense of community absent in the downtown high-rises. I parked and walked, taking in the Friday evening energy, couples on porches, families in yards, a local pub with outdoor seating and live music spilling into the street. Different from the sleek, cosmopolitan lifestyle Emma and I had cultivated, warmer somehow, more authentic. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. "Survived first week in the corner office, celebration in order." I smiled and replied, "Survived and thriving. Actually exploring that neighborhood you mentioned right now." Her response came quickly. "Great area, right? Try Westland Brewing if you're still there. Live jazz on Fridays." I glanced up and realized I was standing across the street from the very place she'd mentioned. Must be psychic, I'm looking at it right now. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Finally, "I could join you in 30 if you want company. No pressure." I hesitated only briefly before replying, "Company would be nice." As I waited for Olivia, securing a table on the crowded patio, I reflected on the week's developments. Professional advancement, financial security, a new living situation taking shape, and perhaps something else emerging, a friendship evolving into something undefined but promising, but not a replacement for what was lost, not a quick fix for broken trust, but something authentic, growing in its own time and space. One step forward, then another, the path of rebuilding revealing itself one choice at a time. The late summer evening at Westland Brewing shifted something between Olivia and me. Nothing dramatic. No declarations or grand gestures, just a subtle realignment that felt significant in its quietness. We shared a table on the crowded patio, jazz music flowing around us, local beer in hand, and conversation that moved effortlessly between work, personal philosophies, and tentative future plans. "So you're seriously considering the Northeast?" she asked, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, that familiar gesture I'd begun to notice more. "I think so," I replied, watching a couple dance near the small stage. It has a different energy than downtown, less polished, more authentic. That's what drew my sister here initially. She said it felt like a real neighborhood, not just a collection of expensive addresses. Exactly. I took a sip of my IPA. I've been thinking a lot about authenticity lately. What's real versus what looks good on paper? Olivia studied me thoughtfully. That makes sense, given everything. Sometimes it takes a seismic event to make us reevaluate what we actually want versus what we thought we should want. Like a relationship that photographs well but lacks foundation, I suggested, surprising myself with the candor. Perhaps. She hesitated, then asked, "Do you think that's what you had with Emma? Something that looked better than it was?" The question would have felt invasive from almost anyone else. From Olivia, it felt like genuine curiosity, an invitation to explore rather than an accusation. "I'm starting to wonder," I admitted. "We made sense on paper, successful professionals, similar social circles, compatible goals. But there was always this performance aspect, like we were both playing roles in a story about the perfect couple. And now I'm interested in what's real, even if it's messy or imperfect." Her eyes met mine, holding for a beat longer than usual. "Messy and imperfect can be beautiful too." "It can," I agreed, feeling something shift between us again, a current of possibility neither of us was quite ready to name. The band started a new song, something slow and bluesy. On impulse, I extended my hand. "Dance?" Surprise flickered across her face, followed by a warm smile. "I'd like that." We joined the handful of couples near the small stage. Olivia fit against me naturally, her hand in mine, her other hand resting lightly on my shoulder. We moved together easily, finding rhythm without effort. "I didn't know you danced," she said, looking up at me. "I don't, usually," I confessed. "Emma insisted on lessons before the wedding, said she wouldn't have us looking awkward in the first dance photos." "Ah," Olivia nodded. "More performance." "Exactly." We fell silent, letting the music guide us. I realized with a start that this was the first time I'd mentioned Emma without feeling that sharp twist of betrayal. Progress, perhaps. The song ended too soon. As we returned to our table, Olivia checked her watch and sighed. "I should probably head home. Early hike tomorrow with my running group." "I'll walk you to your car," I offered, settling the bill. Despite her protests. Outside, the summer night had cooled pleasantly. We walked slowly, neither rushing the evening to its conclusion. "This was nice," she said as we reached her car. "Unexpected, but nice." "Very nice," I agreed. "We should do it again sometime." She looked up at me, expression turning serious. "Ryan, can I say something that might be overstepping?" "Of course. I've enjoyed spending time with you these past weeks. More than I probably should, given the circumstances." She took a breath. "But I don't want to be a rebound or a distraction. From what you're processing, you're still healing from something significant." The honesty was refreshing. "I appreciate that, Olivia, truly. And you're right. I am still processing everything. But this, tonight, it doesn't feel like a rebound or distraction. It feels like something worth exploring when the timing is right." Relief softened her features. "When the timing is right," she echoed. "I can work with that." This time, when she rose to kiss my cheek, I turned slightly so our lips met briefly, a question more than a declaration. She pulled back, surprised, but not displeased. "Good night, Ryan," she said softly. "Good night, Olivia." I watched her drive away, feeling lighter than I had in months. 2 weeks later, I found myself standing in an empty craftsman bungalow in the heart of the northeast neighborhood, late afternoon sunlight streaming through original stained glass windows. The real estate agent, not Karen Chen this time, but a local specialist named Trevor, was giving me space to absorb the house's character. "Take your time," he said. "The owners are motivated but not desperate. House has good bones, needs some updating but nothing structural." I wandered through the rooms, mentally cataloguing possibilities. The house was nothing like the sleek and condo I'd shared with Emma. Built in 1923, it had weathered oak floors, built-in bookshelves flanking a brick fireplace, a kitchen that needed modernizing but offered good space. 3 bedrooms upstairs, including a primary suite with a small balcony overlooking the backyard, a basement that could become a home office. It needed work, but I could see the potential. More importantly, I could see myself here. Building something new, something authentic. "What's the story with the sellers?" I asked when Trevor rejoined me in the living room. "Older couple. Lived here 30 years, raised their kids, moving to Arizona for retirement." He gestured. "To the built-ins. They're hoping to find a buyer who'll appreciate the character. Had an offer from a developer who wanted to gut it, but they turned it down. Willing to take a little less to preserve the home's integrity." That resonated with me. Preservation of integrity over maximum profit. "I'd like to make an offer," I decided. Trevor looked surprised, but pleased. "You sure? Most buyers see at least 5 or 6 properties before deciding." "I'm sure. Sometimes you just know when something fits." The offer process moved quickly. My financial situation was strong. The condo sale had closed, the prenup settlement was substantial, and my new position at Horizon came with a significant salary increase. The sellers accepted my offer within days, apparently pleased to find a buyer who valued the home's character. The closing was set for the end of the month, which gave me time to finalize plans for necessary renovations. Kitchen modernization. Updated bathrooms, new paint throughout, projects to focus my energy and attention. Work continued to go well. The Rosenthal account was fully established, with Sophia sending additional family members my way. Martin was delighted, already hinting at partner-track conversations in the coming year. "The board has noticed your performance," he mentioned during our weekly meeting, "particularly how you've handled the transition to Colin's position. Some people get the big office and immediately relax. You've doubled down." I hadn't thought about it that way, but he was right. Work had become both refuge and purpose in recent months. The methodical analysis of risk and opportunity, the clear metrics of success and failure, they provided structure when my personal life had none. And then there was Olivia. Our friendship had deepened, evolving cautiously into something more. Weekend hikes in Forest Park, dinners at neighborhood restaurants, a shared appreciation for independent films at the local art house, cinema, small moments accumulating into something substantial. We were taking it slowly, both aware of the complicated backdrop against which our relationship was developing. No declarations of love, no formal labels, just genuine connection, unfolding naturally. It felt healthy, refreshing, real. One evening, in late September, as we were preparing dinner in my temporary apartment, Olivia asked the question that had been hovering unspoken between us. "Have you heard from Emma recently?" I paused in chopping vegetables. "No, not since Seattle." I glanced at her. "Why do you ask?" She shrugged, focusing intently on the pasta sauce she was stirring. "Just curious. It's been a few months now, wondering where things stand." "Legally, everything's resolved. Personally," I considered the question. "I don't hate her anymore. That's progress, I suppose." "It is," Olivia agreed. "Hatred takes energy you could direct elsewhere. Like renovating a 1923 craftsman." I suggested with a smile. Exactly. Later that night, after Olivia had gone home, I found myself thinking about her question. Where did things stand with Emma? With the whole situation? The acute pain had faded into something duller, less immediate. I could go days without thinking about the betrayal now. Progress, indeed. I checked my email before bed and found a message from Richard Wilson sent an hour earlier. Mitchell, finalizing structure for the medical tech fund. Last chance to discuss your potential involvement. Dinner tomorrow? My club, 7 p.m. RW. I'd been avoiding making a decision about Richard's offer for weeks. The professional opportunity was significant, getting in on the ground floor of what would likely be a very successful venture, but the personal complications remained. After a moment's consideration, I replied, I'll be there. The next evening found me back at the Portland Metropolitan Club, the exclusive social club where I'd met with Richard months earlier. The doorman recognized me, nodding as I entered the wood-paneled lobby. Richard was waiting in the same private dining room, rising to shake my hand with that same firm grip. Mitchell, appreciate you coming. Thanks for the invitation, I replied, taking the seat across from him. He ordered drinks, scotch for himself, sparkling water for me, and got straight to business. Fund structure is nearly finalized, he said, sliding a folder across the table. 20 million initial capitalization, focus on early-stage medical device companies, particularly surgical innovations. Advisory board includes 3 department chairs from major medical schools. I opened the folder, scanning the executive summary. The business case was strong, the investment strategy aligned with growing markets. The management team was experienced and well-connected. Impressive, I acknowledged. Why me specifically? Richard studied me over his scotch. Your risk assessment skills are exceptional. Your reputation at Horizon is stellar, and you have no conflicts that would compromise your judgment. No conflicts except my history with your daughter, I pointed out. He waved this away. Ancient history. Business is business. Is it ancient history to Emma? Richard's expression shifted slightly. Emma has moved on, professionally at least. Personally, he shrugged. She's still working through things, but she won't be involved in the fund directly. I continued reviewing the materials. The opportunity was exactly as he described it. Ground floor involvement in a well-capitalized venture with significant growth potential. The kind of opportunity that could accelerate my career trajectory substantially. What's your timeline? I asked. Fund launches January 1st. Need commitments from key team members by end of October. And my role would be? Risk assessment. Director, evaluating potential investments, conducting due diligence, developing risk mitigation strategies. He leaned forward. 20% salary increase from what you're making at Horizon, plus equity in the fund itself. A generous offer by any standard, but something felt off. Why are you really doing this, Richard? I asked directly. There are dozens of qualified risk assessment specialists in Portland. Why pursue me specifically, given the history? He sat back, considering me with newfound respect. Direct, I like that. He took a sip of scotch before continuing. 2 reasons. First, you are genuinely the best candidate based on your skills and experience. Second, he hesitated. I respect how you handled the situation with Emma. Professional, dignified. No public drama, despite having every right to create some. That was for my benefit, not hers. Nevertheless, he set his glass down precisely. In my world, character matters. You showed good character under extremely difficult circumstances. The compliment was unexpected. Thank you. So, are you interested? I closed the folder. I need time to review the details and to consider the personal implications. He nodded. Understood, but don't take too long. Opportunity like this won't come around again soon. As I left the club, My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. "Dinner at my place tomorrow? I'm attempting homemade pasta. Emphasis on attempting." I smiled and replied, "Wouldn't miss it. I'll bring wine and moral support." The contrast between the two evenings, the formal business dinner with Richard and the promised casual homemade meal with Olivia, highlighted the diverging paths before me. Continue climbing the professional ladder, potentially accelerated by Richard's offer, or focus on building something more balanced, more authentic. The following evening at Olivia's modest but charming apartment in southeast Portland, I found myself relaxing in a way I rarely had with Emma. Olivia's place reflected her personality, warm, unpretentious, thoughtfully arranged. Books filled mismatched shelves. Framed hiking maps hung alongside art, collected from local festivals. A record player spun vinyl in the corner, something jazzy and low-key. She greeted me with flower on her cheek and genuine delight. "Fair warning, pasta machine is winning so far." I laughed, handing over the promised wine. I brought reinforcements and my complete lack of pasta-making skills. "Perfect, we can fail together." The evening unfolded with easy companionship. The pasta turned out surprisingly well, despite our amateur efforts. The wine complemented the simple tomato sauce. Conversation flowed without effort or performance. "So," Olivia said as we settled, on her couch after dinner, wine glasses in hand, "you seemed distracted earlier. Everything okay?" I hesitated, then decided on honesty. "I met with Richard Wilson last night, Emma's father. He's offering me a position with a new investment fund he's launching." Her eyebrows rose. "That's unexpected. What kind of position?" I explained the offer, the fund structure, the potential career implications. Olivia listened attentively, asking insightful questions about the opportunity. "It sounds significant," she observed when I finished. "Are you considering it?" "I am," I admitted. "Professionally, it makes sense. It's an exceptional opportunity. And personally," I sighed. "That's more complicated. Working with Emma's father means she'll be tangentially in my life, even if she's not directly involved with the fund." "Does that bother you?" "Less than it would have a few months ago," I said honestly. "But it's still a factor." Olivia set her wine glass down, turning to face me fully. "Can I offer a perspective?" "Please." "You've spent months rebuilding after what happened with Emma and Jason, finding your footing, creating new patterns. This offer represents a potential return to that world, even peripherally." She paused. "Only you can decide if that's healthy or if it risks reopening wounds that are just beginning to heal." Her insight cut to the heart of my hesitation. "That's exactly it. Is this opportunity worth potentially disrupting the progress I've made? What does your instinct tell you?" I considered the question seriously. That I need to make decisions based on what's right for my future, not reactions to my past. She nodded. "That sounds like wisdom to me." We fell silent, comfortable in the moment of shared understanding. Olivia didn't push for a decision or try to influence me one way or the other. She simply created space for me to think clearly. Later, as I was leaving, she rose on tiptoes to kiss me, not on the cheek this time, but properly, a kiss that suggested possibility and patience in equal measure. "Whatever you decide about the job," she said softly, "I'm here. No pressure, no timeline." The echo of Richard's email language wasn't lost on me, but the sentiment behind Olivia's words felt entirely different. Not a business transaction with a deadline, but a human connection with room to grow. "Thank you," I said, meaning it deeply. The week that followed brought clarity in unexpected ways. The house closing proceeded smoothly, giving me keys to my new home ahead of schedule. I spent an evening walking through the empty rooms, planning renovations, imagining a future in a space entirely my own. At work, a new client situation arose, a family office with significant holdings that needed restructuring after a patriarch's death. Martin assigned it to me personally, mentioning that it could be as substantial as the Rosenthal account if handled properly. A vote of confidence in my abilities, and a reminder of the opportunities already before me at Horizon. On Friday afternoon, I made my decision. I called Richard Wilson directly rather than emailing. He answered on the second ring. "Mitchell, decision time?" "Yes," I confirmed. "I appreciate the offer, Richard. It's exceptional in every way. But," he intuited correctly, "but I'm declining. My career at Horizon is on a strong trajectory, and I'm focused on building something new for myself. Completely new." A moment of silence, then. "I understand. Disappointing, but I respect your decision." Another pause. "This isn't about Emma, is it?" "Not entirely," I said truthfully, "but I won't pretend it's not a factor. Some chapters need to close completely before new ones can begin." "Fair enough." His tone remained businesslike. "If you change your mind before the end of October, the offer stands." "Thank you." I hesitated, then added, "I wish you success with the fund. The concept is solid." "Appreciate that." He cleared his throat. "Good luck with whatever you're building, Mitchell." The call ended, and I felt a weight lift that I hadn't fully acknowledged was there. The decision felt right, not a rejection of an opportunity, but an affirmation of the direction I'd chosen for myself. I texted Olivia, "Free this weekend to help pick paint colors for the new house?" Her reply came quickly, "Absolutely. I have strong opinions about eggshell versus satin finish." I smiled, tucking my phone away as Martin appeared in my office doorway. "Mitchell, got a minute? Board wants an update on the Mercer situation." "Of course." I gathered the relevant files, thoughts of paint colors and renovation plans temporarily. Set aside. Life was moving forward. One decision, one day, one step at a time. That Sunday, Olivia and I spent the afternoon at the new house, paint samples spread across the living room floor as we debated the merits of various shades for each room. The October sunshine streamed through the stained glass windows, casting colored patterns across the hardwood floors. "This blue for the bedroom," she suggested, holding up a serene slate blue sample. "It would work beautifully with the morning light." "I like it," I agreed, adding it to our yes pile. We moved through the house room by room, making notes and creating a cohesive color palette. The process was oddly intimate, discussing spaces, imagining them transformed, considering how they would feel and function. "What about this room?" Olivia asked, pausing in the smallest bedroom upstairs. "Office? Guest room?" I considered the space with its large window overlooking the backyard maple tree. "Not sure yet. I like keeping some possibilities open." She smiled, understanding what I wasn't explicitly saying. Room for the future to unfold in its own way. Later, sitting on the porch steps, sharing takeout Thai food, Olivia asked, "Did you ever think you'd end up here? 6 months ago, I mean." "Never," I admitted. "I had a very different future mapped out, all the details planned and accounted for. And now I'm renovating a 90-year-old house with uncertain outcomes and incomplete plans." I smiled at her. "And it feels more right than all those perfect plans ever did." She leaned against my shoulder companionably. "Uncertainty has its charms." "It does," I agreed, putting my arm around her. "Especially with the right company." Bing! We sat together as sunset painted the sky in shades we hadn't yet found on any paint sample, oranges and pinks giving way to deepening blues. A perfect Portland fall evening, full of possibility and peace. The path forward wasn't perfectly clear or carefully mapped. There would be complications and unexpected turns ahead. Renovation challenges, work pressures, the continuing process of healing from betrayal. the careful navigation of a new relationship. But for the first time since that devastating discovery months ago, the future felt like something to embrace, rather than endure, something to build thoughtfully, one choice at a time, with authenticity as the foundation. 1 year after the day I should have been married, I stood in the backyard of my fully renovated Craftsman, surrounded by friends and colleagues, celebrating a housewarming that felt like much more. The maple tree blazed with fall colors, strands of lights crisscrossed overhead, and the sound of laughter filled the crisp evening air. "To new beginnings," Martin toasted, raising his glass, "and to the newest partner at Horizon Capital." A cheer went up from the gathered crowd. The partnership announcement had come through just yesterday, the culmination of a year of focused work and expanding client relationships. The timing of the housewarming celebration couldn't have been more perfect. "Speech," someone called from the back of the gathering. I glanced at Olivia, who stood nearby with an encouraging smile. She'd been instrumental in planning this evening, insisting that the completed house renovation and the partnership deserved proper recognition. "I'm not much for speeches," I began, "but I'm grateful for the opportunities at Horizon, for friends who've been there through challenging times, and for the chance to build something authentic." I raised my glass. "To all of you who've been part of this journey." As glasses clinked and conversations resumed, I took a moment to appreciate how much had changed in 12 months. The house renovation had been both challenge and therapy, tearing out what didn't work, preserving what was valuable, building something sturdy and true. Each decision had been intentional, from the restored original woodwork to the modernized kitchen that maintained the home's character. My relationship with Olivia had developed with similar care and intention. We'd taken our time, building a foundation of honesty and genuine connection. She'd moved in 3 months ago, bringing her books and hiking maps and vinyl collection, adding warmth to spaces I'd deliberately left open for possibilities. Megan, my assistant, approached with her husband in tow. "Beautiful home, Ryan. The restoration is remarkable." "Couldn't have done it without Parker," I said, nodding to the contractor who was chatting with colleagues near the food table. "He understood what I wanted to preserve." "Sign of a good partnership," her husband observed, "knowing what to keep and what to change." The observation felt profound in its simplicity. Isn't that what life was about? Discerning what to preserve and what to transform, what to remember and what to release. As the evening progressed, I circulated among guests, accepting congratulations and sharing renovation stories. Around 8, I noticed Olivia discreetly checking her watch, then catching my eye with a slight nod toward the front of the house. Our prearranged signal, I excused myself from a conversation with colleagues and made my way through the house to the front porch. A car was pulling up to the curb, a rideshare, not a vehicle I recognized. The back door opened, and a familiar figure emerged, Emma. She paid the driver and turned toward the house, hesitating when she saw me standing on the porch. Even in the dim evening light, I could see she looked different, hair shorter, expression less polished, more human somehow. "I wasn't sure you'd agree to see me," she said, remaining at the edge of the walkway. "Olivia said you called, that you wanted to talk." She nodded. "Is that okay? I can leave if it's not." I considered the question seriously. A year ago, the sight of her would have triggered pain and anger. Now I felt curiosity, perhaps even compassion. "It's okay," I decided. "Come sit." We settled on the porch swing, another original feature I'd carefully restored. Through the open windows, the sounds of the party continued in the backyard, but the front porch remained quiet, a separate space. "Beautiful house," Emma observed. "Very different from what we had." "That was intentional," I acknowledged. She smiled slightly. I'm sure it was. She glanced toward the backyard. Congratulations on the partnership. My father mentioned it. You still talk to Richard about me? I asked, surprised. Occasionally. He respects you. She paused. He was disappointed you turned down his offer, but he understood why. I nodded, waiting for her to continue, to explain why she'd wanted to see me after a year of silence. I'm leaving Portland, she said finally. Took a position at Mayo Clinic, pediatric surgical research. Prestigious, I noted. Congratulations. Thank you. She twisted her hands together. That nervous gesture I remembered from our last encounter. Before I left, I wanted to see you, to apologize again now that some time has passed, and to thank you. Thank me. For what? For not destroying me when you could have. She met my eyes directly. You had every right to make things much worse for me professionally, to tell everyone what happened. You didn't. That wouldn't have helped either of us. Still, the restraint was noteworthy. We sat in silence for a moment, the porch swing creaking gently. How are you, really? I asked finally. She considered the question. Better. 2 years of therapy helps. Understanding why I sabotaged something valuable doesn't undo it, but it prevents repeating the pattern. That's progress. It is. She glanced toward the backyard again. You and Olivia seem good together. She called me, said you'd moved forward, but thought there might be value in closure. I hadn't known that detail, that Olivia had initiated the contact. It touched me, her understanding that resolving the past mattered, even as we built the future. She's wise. That way, I said. She also said if I hurt you again in any way, she'd make sure I regretted it thoroughly. Emma's lips quirked in a small smile. I believe her. So do I. Another moment of silence, more comfortable than I would have expected. And Jason? I asked, the question arising from genuine curiosity rather than lingering pain. Have you heard from him? Not for months. Last I heard, he'd moved to Chicago, teaching economics at a private school there. She shrugged. Whatever was between us died the day you found us. It wasn't real to begin with. I nodded, understanding more than I once had, just part of the self-sabotage. Exactly. She sighed. We both lost you, the most authentic person in either of our lives, appropriate consequence. The assessment startled me. I'd never thought of myself as particularly authentic during my relationship with Emma. If anything, I'd been playing a role, the successful professional partner to her ambitious surgeon, the perfect match on paper. I'm more authentic now, I said, with myself and others. It shows. She gestured to the house, the life I'd built. You seem at peace. I am, mostly. I surprised myself with the honesty. Some days are still harder than others. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. No, it doesn't, she agreed. That's what I'm working on most in therapy, learning to trust myself before expecting others to trust me. A burst of laughter from the backyard reminded me of the celebration continuing without us. Emma heard it too and stood. I should go. I've taken enough of your time. I rose as well. When do you leave for Rochester? Next week. Clean break, fresh start. I wish you well, Emma, genuinely. She studied my face, perhaps looking for signs of insincerity, finding none. Thank you, Ryan. That means more than you know. As she turned to leave, she paused. The prenup clause. The one I triggered. Did you know, when you insisted on that specific wording, what would happen? No, I said truthfully. It was just protecting against worst-case scenarios. It's what I do professionally. She nodded. Your attention to detail saved you. In more ways than one, I suppose it did. She descended the porch steps. Goodbye, Ryan. Goodbye, Emma. I watched her walk to the waiting rideshare that had returned. a strange sense of completion settling over me. Not happiness or sadness exactly, just the quiet recognition that a chapter had fully closed. When I returned to the backyard, Olivia found me immediately, concern in her eyes. "Everything okay?" "Yes," I said, surprised to find it was true. "Everything's good." She searched my face. "You sure?" "That couldn't have been easy. Easier than I expected." I took her hand. "Thank you for arranging it, for understanding. It might be important." "Of course." She squeezed my hand. "Some doors need proper closing before others can fully open." The wisdom of that statement resonated deeply. "Have I told you lately how remarkable you are?" "Not in the last few hours," she teased. I leaned down to kiss her, not caring who among our guests noticed. "Consider it said." The party continued into the evening, friends lingering in the warm glow of good food, drink, and conversation. Around midnight, the last guests departed, leaving Olivia and me to survey the pleasant aftermath, empty glasses, scattered plates, evidence of celebration. "We can clean up tomorrow," she suggested, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind as I stood in the kitchen doorway. "Come to bed." I turned in her embrace. "One thing first." She raised an eyebrow as I took her hand and led her to my home office. From the safe, hidden behind a built-in bookshelf, I removed a small velvet box, the engagement ring Emma had returned in Seattle. "I've been waiting for the right moment," I explained, opening the box. But instead of Emma's ring, it contained a different one, a simple, elegant diamond in a vintage setting. "This was my grandmother's. My mother gave it to me last month when I told her about us." Olivia's eyes widened. "Ryan, I'm not proposing." "Not yet," I clarified. "We've been intentional about our timing, and I respect that. But I wanted you to know that I'm keeping this safe, for when we're both ready." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "When we're both ready," she echoed. "I love that. And I love you." "I love you too." I closed the box and returned it to the safe. No rush, no pressure, just possibility. Later, lying beside Olivia in the bedroom, painted that perfect slate blue she'd chosen, I reflected on the journey of the past year, the painful discovery that had shattered my carefully planned future, the methodical rebuilding that followed, the house that had become a home, the woman who had been friend, then confidant, then partner, not a replacement for what was lost, but something entirely new and genuine. The prenup clause had protected me financially, but the real protection had come from within, from the resilience I'd discovered in myself, from the values I'd clarified through crisis, from the authenticity I'd committed to moving forward. Emma's betrayal with Jason had cost me a wedding, a relationship, and a friendship, but it had given me something too, a chance to rebuild with intention, to create a life aligned with my truest self rather than external expectations. Some lessons come at great cost. Their value lies in what we build with the wisdom they provide. In the quiet darkness, Olivia's breathing steady beside me, I felt profound gratitude, not for the betrayal itself, but for the clarity that had followed, for the chance to distinguish between relationships that photograph well and those that nurture the soul, between houses that impress and homes that shelter, between lives that look successful and those that feel meaningful. The journey hadn't been one I would have chosen, but the destination was exactly where I needed to be. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia murmured sleepily. "How sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes," I replied. "If things had gone according to plan, I'd have missed all of this." She nestled closer. "Their loss, my gain." I smiled in the darkness. "Our gain." Tomorrow would bring new challenges, client meetings, renovation details still needing attention, the ongoing work of building a life together. But tonight, In this house restored with care and intention, I was exactly where I belonged. With exactly the right person, living exactly the right life, not perfect but authentic, not what I had planned, but what I had chosen, step by intentional step. And in that choice lay all the difference. Up next, you've got two more standout stories, right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.